Summit number 6.
Week 6. This is a fun one. This is identity. And this all started from actually I read this on a piece of paper and it sent me on a journey of self-discovery that really changed my life.
Yeah, really blew your mind. This was when we had
just started. Yeah, and on the top of the paper it said this. And I'm going to say it a couple times because it's a bake your noodle moment, like from the movie The Matrix. The you who you know yourself to be may not actually be who you really are. So I'm going to say that again. The you who you know yourself to be may not actually be who you really are. Mm-hmm. And so this whole conversation today is about identity. And it's a really, in this conversation of the power to change, you really have to change who you are being in order to have lasting change. And a lot of that comes down to identity.
So we want to really distinguish this whole change thing, because we truly believe every person is whole, perfect, and complete, exactly the way they are. And it's not like you need to fix yourself or change yourself, but often what we do need to do is to remember who we truly are. Now, as we go through life, we get put through a bunch of filters, which Paul's looking at filters right now.
I'm looking at audio filters.
So we see the world through a filtered lens, depending on who our parents are, depending on what communities we're part of, what political, social groups we're a part of, what churches or religion or organized groups that we're a part of, what type of school we went to. All of these create filters of lenses of how we see the world. And sometimes there might be an incongruency where you're seeing the world, but something feels off. And that's because your belief system or your genetic makeup is not totally in alignment with the filter or the lens that you've been taught to look through. And you'll see this when children suddenly, maybe they go to college, and then the concepts of college feel so much more aligned to them than what their parents brought them up to believe. And so then suddenly there's a breakaway from the belief structure of the family unit. Or, maybe a certain religion makes more sense to someone than the one that they grew up in because it speaks to them. The God of that speaks to them that way. So we really want to define that when we have the power to change, it's because it's more like stepping into the alignment of what our soul, our true self, is begging or asking for. And so many people feel fixed. Like, oh, you can't teach an old dog new tricks, or you this is the way it is, and it simply isn't true unless there is an absolute truth, which really there isn't, besides the fact that we are all going to die. That's an absolute truth, right? There's no really getting out of it. Some people have lived to 120. They're defying the odds as best they can for as long as they can. But that is an ultimate truth. But nothing else in the world can quite be ultimate. And so when we have a fixed idea, a fixed belief that this is true and that is it.
Like ultimate, like absolute?
Absolute, right. Yeah.
Okay.
Absolute truth. Like there is no other way. I mean, is that really true? Is that really true? It's true for you, but someone on the other side of the world that grew up in a totally different set of circumstances and different belief, it's not true for them. So this is why the exciting thing about identity is we so feel like we're stuck. And I'm the strong one, I'm the dumb one, I'm the sporty one, I'm the this. And these are all identities that were given to us.
Yeah.
And they simply don't, like, we get stuck in an identity and it becomes a prison. Even if it's like you're an Olympian and you're a winner, that eventually will become a prison because if you're no longer Olympian because you've retired, and then who are you with when you're not an Olympian? and it can become a prison if you don't win at everything else you do at life, So it's there. We want to stay fluid, and we want to even question our own beliefs all the time to make sure they're not imprisoning us or keeping us stuck in an old version of ourselves, not who we get to be today or tomorrow or any day, right? So the power to change is we have the ability to shift and move anything that we want to, anything. And we've all seen the stories of, one of my teachers, Tony Robbins, was an extraordinary one of that. He had a tough childhood, and a lot of different fathers coming in and out. And then, in his 20s, he was a janitor, and that was who he was. That was the identity. That's what he built himself to be. But he knew from the core of his being that that's not who he was meant to be. And he has now gone on to be one of the most prolific people of this time, helping millions of people transform their lives just like he transformed his. Now he got a coach, spent time with other people, and invested in himself. He believed he could so that he could. Now, belief is everything. And so we're going to go into a bunch of steps on how to really transform and shift into the person that you want to be. And because sometimes it's a lot harder than we imagine, because you have to shift a bunch of your identity, a bunch of your beliefs along the way. So we're going to go into step by step on ways in which to do that. But first, Paul's going to go into the mind game of all of this a little more.
If you're just joining us, this is week 6 of our Power to Change Wellness Summit, and we're dealing with identity. And right at the beginning, I shared a quote: the you know yourself to be may not actually be who you really are. And oftentimes, so when Kate touched on this, but when we're young, something happens, someone calls us the fat one or that, or we get abused. And that we create a way of surviving that. And often people are that person until the day they die, and they never actually get a chance to be anything other than a survivor or a victim or somebody who is, they'll completely invent a reality around this moment that happened in the past. And for most people, their past is not in their past. Their past is in their future, and they just keep living Groundhog's Day over and over again because of this fixed personality.
And they go, well, this is what's going to happen. And then you get to be right over and over and over again because you keep recreating your past into your future.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so the opportunity is that we can actually create something now in 2024 that is different from all these years that have just, for some of you, have been Groundhog's Day. Like the same number in the bank account, the same number when you look down at the scale, the same group of friends that are gossiping or pulling you down, the same stuff that you keep eating over and over again, or the news programs or the TV programs that you watch. And so 2024 can be something totally created and totally new, and you can actually design something of an identity. And that's what's cool, is if you're able to see that I'm not who my past says I am, you can create something, and you get to create something that is really, really powerful, and something that will give you the life that you actually want. And a lot of that comes, you want to say something?
I do, just on that, because there's a couple of things that come up with the whole identity thing. And whenever you travel to a different country where nobody knows you and they speak different languages, a totally new personality does come up a lot of the time. And it's because you're not limited by who you are in your life. You can be or do whoever, you can be and do whatever you want to do because you're in a totally different environment. So shifting environments can be a big catalyst for change. But one of the things that I found really freeing when I discovered this was that every single person that knows you knows a different version of you than you know of yourself. So, let me say that again. Every single person that knows you knows a different version of you than you know of yourself. So guess what that means? If you know hundreds of people, there are hundreds of versions out there. She said it's worse.
Yeah.
Hundreds of versions out there of you. So when we know that, we can start to shift into understanding that we're not stuck in how, all these people know us. And that's why some people are chameleons, right? There's some people that you hang around and you feel funny and fabulous and free, and other people you hang around, you feel stupid and silly and small. And so you chameleon based on what that person thinks of you or feels. And now we talk about this all the time as we create people in our listening. And that's a whole nother thing. I won't go into that. But, if you find yourself shifting and changing based on if you're talking to Uncle Larry or you're talking to your best friend, or it's because your identity is it's moving. Therefore, you're not stuck to be that same person that you think you always have to be with Uncle Larry. You can shift to being exactly who you are with your best friend, with Uncle Larry. Uncle Larry can take it. Yeah. He's going to have to get used to the fact that you are who you are. And so you getting really comfortable with exactly who you are, exactly, what your opinions are, what your beliefs are. And listen, guys, we're all meant to have different opinions. Like, life would be very dull if we were all the one way politically or all the one way religiously. It would be awful. And I know you think that would be wonderful, but it would not. And human nature would be someone would come and cause a ruckus anyway, because we are meant to have different opinions. We are meant to challenge each other. We are meant to grow, expand, and inspire one another. And that's diversity creates that. So just be more curious about the differences rather than needing things to be the same.
Yeah.
So that's what I found really liberating, is that the fact that
everyone sees you different.
Everyone sees you differently, so you don't have to stay the same. You can be who you want to be.
And we think the world's occurring the same to everyone, but it isn't. Every single person, no matter how you were raised, where you were raised, who said what to you, the books you've read, the religion you grew up in, the country you grew up in, the politics of that country, and then your friends. When I say the word like the sky is blue, that's a pretty common one. That's probably not the easiest one. But if I share something with you and I think you think exactly what I mean, meaning, and there are tribes in Africa that don't see the color blue. Like, it's just do you know, remember that?
Yeah, they just don't see it. Like, it's not in their vocabulary.
They don't have
the word for it, so it's just not there. They don't see it.
They don't have the word blue or the language for it. And so every single person that you talk to, when you say words to them, you think that those words mean the same thing to them, but it doesn't. It, based on their filter where they grew up, it translates into them totally, totally different. And so what's the good news is you can create anything you want. You're not fixed in something, in some victim thing that happened to you in the past. And 2024 can be radically different based if you say so. And so it can be a really simple shift. And it sometimes just when the lights go on, and the light's almost like a blind spot, that you have invented this reality for yourself, this identity from your past. Sometimes just somebody, because those words, the you know yourself to be, may not actually be who you are. Just me hearing those words, I was like, oh, I have created this Paul to get love, to get acceptance, to get approval, to get money, to get girls. Like, I got a girl. I created this personality to win. And it may not actually be who I truly am, which is really kind of exciting and cool. And so the opportunity here is, who do you get to be in 2024? Not do, Not what are you going to do in 2024? Who do you get to be? Because so much of this identity stuff is based in your human beingness. And we're so busy doing, and we think that is what makes us who we are, but it isn't.
And in this day and age, we're reacting all the time. The fact that we have devices that ping at us all day long, drawing our attention to whatever it wants. Yeah. It's keeping us distracted from the goals or the things that we really, really want to create. Now, 20 years ago, we didn't have that. So we're having to navigate life differently, and the level of how we're pulled constantly towards everyone's needs and desires, because everyone can get a hold of you at any second of the day, and that just wasn't the case before. Right. And if you didn't answer your landline, then nobody knew where you were. So it's I miss those days.
Well, and the amount of information we get in a day is from our phones and our TVs is more information than our grandparents got in their entire life. So
if they lived 100 years, so
if they lived 100 years ago, if they lived 100
years old, so they. So what we wanted to do is give you some action steps on how to really create the beingness of your life rather than do, the being in the doing, So, because it's like, oh, what am I going to do for 2024? And what are, all of these things, which is so many more things to do rather than how do we step into being? And from that being, things get created because we are clear and intentional on what we really want.
So the first step, do you want to go through some of these?
Yeah. Go for it. You go.
Bettina said it's distorted now, so you do the first one. I'm going to try to fix this distortion.
Oh, no.
I don't know why.
I don't know why. Anyway, so the number one is stillness. Meditation. How you start your day is generally how the rest of the day will go. So if you start your day and you pick up your phone and turn off your alarm and then you start scrolling, guess what? You're going to be in reaction for the rest of your day.
That's
your
right.
day isn't yours.
You're primed.
It's primed to the world, to everybody else's needs, to what everything else is going on. And you're like, you might be munging out, like, oh, I'm just going to scroll for a minute.
Log out on your phone,
Then guess what? Your day is not going to be set up powerfully for you. You're becoming an observer or in the passenger seat of life, which is not where you want to be.
No.
Right? So you want to either get up and move your body, get outside and go for a walk. That's the number one thing you can do. There's a million health benefits, and we've gone over them in our other summits. So that is a perfect way to get vitamin D in your eyes, help your sleep cycle, just move your body, get lymphatic fluids moving, all of the things. So that was a really powerful way to start your day. Or if you can't do that, at least 5 minutes of silence, like just sitting and being present to your breath, to your body, to this beautiful thing that helps us move through the world. Really just in gratitude of that, in gratitude of the breaths you can take. So breath work and meditation are truly essential in this day and age.
It is, and if you want to be radical, go do a Vipassana, where you will really get to know that voice in your head. Both Kate and I have done them. They're a 10-day silent retreat, and they're free. You can leave a donation at the end when you go, and you literally sit there with yourself for 12 hours a day in a very quiet, meditative place for 10 days. And when my dad passed, and it was a very intense time, I went there and spent 10 days in silence. And I highly recommend some version of that, so you can go, oh, I'm not the voice in my head. I'm not what other people say I am either, but who am I? And it's like, we realize this is a big existential question. This isn't just like this, we're going to give you in this live, like, this is who you are. But the cool thing is you get to create it. And you have been creating it your whole life. You've been creating who you are. And the question is, do you like that? Do you like that persona or that identity that you invented and you did it? And it's probably served some of you. We're not saying it's a bad thing. Sometimes these things we create in the past, they're to survive something. But they
always are, really.
And once that's survived, you often keep going in that identity when you're like, we've already made it through the threat. And so there's an opportunity just by bringing some awareness to it that you can be something a little bit different. It's really cool. Okay, so movement, we went over that. You can also, your environment is a really big thing to creating who you are. Who do you surround yourself? Who are your mirrors? Who are those reflecting people? Are they reflecting back truth? Are they reflecting back just what you want to hear? Or are they in your gossip,
or negative,
gossip
or
community?
gossip, or, if your days are filled with talking about celebrities and what they're doing with their lives, then you should, pick a new friend group. And because that sorts of stuff can get all consuming, but it's like, why are you not talking about your own lives and what you're up to and supporting each other and rooting for each other?
Right.
So finding your community, finding a bunch of people that stay in the conversation of your health, of your life, of your goals, of your dreams. People just don't talk about these things anymore. And why not? Why not? So really you want to do that. Now, we are the sum total of the 5 people we spend the most time with. So you really want to
trigger warning.
Look at the 5 people that you're spending all your time with and be like, is their lives something that I aspire to? And if it's not that you just get rid of them, but you need to start spending more time with people that are doing the things that you want to do, being the people you want to that you look up to or that you really want to create and generate yourself as, right? So if you don't have the career you want, but there's someone that does, see if they would be your mentor, see if you can work for them for free, see how you can get yourself in that world so that you can start seeing the ins and outs of how they operate. When I read something that if you suddenly hang out with a group of millionaires and you're the only one that's not, it will only be a year until you become one. And that's because the conversation is at a level where they're talking about things that are of that caliber, right? And how to grow things and how to shift things, and they know secrets and ways in which to fast track things, right? So it's just a knowledge base. And if you spend your time around that, then you will get that knowledge base. Whereas if you spend your time around gossip magazines and oh my gosh, did you see what happened to Julia Roberts? I'm like, yeah, all these things, then that's what's going to happen, and you'll be stuck in that world, and that's not going to elevate you out. Reading books, books that expand your mind, that help you grow new concepts, and they're like seeds of thought, and they grow flowers and they grow trees, but you have to have those seeds of thoughts go in. So rather than a trashy novel that's really fun to read, and I highly recommend them at certain points, so that's a great way to blog out instead of scrolling or watching TV, because it's still, growing the gray matter of your brain by reading, but not all the time. There's a time and place. You want to be a specific amount of time really expanding your mind and growing new seeds of thoughts, of concepts that you can continuously expand and grow. Because when you're in the circles that you want to expand into, you also want to have great things to converse about. Yeah. You do that by reading, by absorbing knowledge. Knowledge is power in this world.
That's right. And just before we wrap up, I just want to touch on your environment a little bit deeper. So you will most likely weigh the same, this triggers people, as the 5 people that you spend time with. You'll be roughly in similar weight. Not always, but usually. Same as a bank account will be similar. Same as just your view. Everyone, your expectations on how good you're willing to have it, like your upper limit thermostat, will be set at a very similar place. And so it's super, you may have outgrown your friend circle, and it is something to look at, meaning like there's something to be said. I have some friends I've had my whole life, and lucky for me, they keep challenging me and keep growing and actually pushing me. And you want to have friends that are listening for your greatness and pushing you towards something that is not listening for you for how you used to be in your past. And one thing Kate and I do is provide with our program and our year-long journey is a community of people that are trained to actually see you into your greatness, and that are all in the same conversation of transformational work. In full transparency, Kate and I have a program, like a year-long alchemy method that we take a group of people through that goes deeper into identity and into relationships. And Kate has her master's in NLP, if you're just tuning in.
Which is neuro-linguistic programming.
Yeah, so she can read minds.
Yes. It's a way of actually helping to wire new neuro pathways in your brain. So if you keep getting triggered and you always grab for food, let's say, if you rewire a neural pathway, that trigger can lead to a different thing and maybe a healing or a solution, rather than constantly grabbing for something to shove down and try and numb the pain, right?
Yeah.
So that's an example of what neuro-linguistic programming is, if you didn't know.
Yeah, Kate, so your subconscious mind is really running the show. So it's just like software runs a computer. You have software running, and a lot of that is identity based. And Kate's been trained to sort of to help you to look at that and to see, is that the program you want running? Is it giving you the desired results of a life you really enjoy? And NLP is super fast at interrupting sabotage mechanisms and patterns. And that's what makes Tony Robbins really good at what he does. He uses a slightly different style, but he will interrupt your pattern, your identity, your beliefs of who you think you are, so that you can change. And this is week 6 of our Power to Change Summit. And I feel like identity is one of the huge kind of pillars of it.
And so many people fight so hard for a belief
or an identity
that is actually hurting them.
Right.
Over and over, they will fight tooth and nail. Like, I want to use a great example, and this is going to feel divisive for some people, but I come from Australia, which is a country where we have free healthcare, and I truly believe that no one can feel true freedom unless you never ever have to worry about going to the hospital, because it's all free. No matter what you get, it's free, right? So, and then I saw in this country, whenever anyone's tried to bring in anything that is moving toward the direction of having free healthcare in this country, people that need free healthcare the most will fight tooth and nail for it not to happen, because they don't understand it. They don't understand the concepts. They think it's like control or government control, but it's like, no, these are the steps that you have to take in order to eventually get free healthcare that, where you're taken care of, and people will fight for it not to happen. So that's a perfect example of an identity, like, oh no, this is this, and it's like just not really understanding the whole concept of what it is to be taken care of in that way. Or,
someone's taking care of someone at their house, like they're the caregiver, and they've become a martyr, and they've been taking care of everyone in their family, making sure everyone's okay, and they get actual love and acceptance and approval from everyone, and they think that if they're not doing it, everyone will fall apart. And they're like enabling everyone to be less of themselves. In the meantime, they fight for this identity because it's all they know.
But then they're exhausted and they're burnt out. And then so often a caregiver can pass before their patients because they're so burnt out and they do not take care of themselves in the situation.
And that's the place to look. Do you have energy? Like, do you have vitality? If not, there's a good chance your invented reality or identity you've made is draining you. And it's a really great place to look. Like, does you being that martyr or that servant and you're taking care of everyone, do you feel drained? If you feel lit up and you feel like you wake up with like, yes, I get to do this, then maybe you're doing the right thing. And it's like, I feel it's a really great place to check is, does this thing bring you vitality and energy? And if not, you could be just wearing some strong suit, putting on some armor that gets you something.
It's actually, and it's heavy. It's heavy to carry around that armor,
Right.
and you don't even know how to take it off anymore because you feel like if you took it off, you would dissolve. You would be invisible.
Who are you without that?
You know, if you're not the carer, you won't get the love that you want. You know, there's so many of these constructs that are made up in our mind, but we believe are the truth. And it simply isn't true. So, you know, just having someone else to reflect back to you and ask you those questions, like, do you know that to be absolutely true?
And that's what I love that you're saying that, because that's what the Byron Katie work does, is helps you sort of look at that. Like, is it true? Do I know it's true? Who would I be without the thought that that's true? It's one of our mentors and teachers is Byron Katie. And she deals in identity in a way. I guess it's another access point. But this is very deep work.
Very deep work.
This isn't necessarily something you should just go try on your own. Like, it is important for you to have support. Coaches, mentors, a community. That is, like I said, what Kate and I do. And if not us, please, like, we hope that this has been a provocative thing. It really struck me. It's blown me away because I've invented a really great life for myself, and I'm looking at it going like, is this an invention or is this who I am? And it's tricky because the identity that you invent doesn't have to be a bad thing. It could have gotten you a certain amount of love, acceptance, money, approval, status, whatever, and it might not be who you are. Which is freaking cool.
We shed, just like a snake, we're shedding our skin all the time. So who you were 10 years ago definitely isn't who you are now. We grow, hopefully.
Yeah.
Right? And if we're not growing, we're dying.
Right.
So rather be growing than dying, right? So like, who are you? You're not stuck with the set of circumstances, the set of friends. You know, you're not stuck in anything. You can completely transform your life in 1 year to be completely unrecognizable in every facet. And that is a choice. It is just a series of little choices and getting uncomfortable and shifting into something new and trying things on and failing. Failing is a fabulous construct of life. I don't know why everyone's scared of it. It doesn't mean anything. It just means that you tried something. And it's okay if you're not successful. You just try something else until you get to what you want to get to. So many people try things once and they're like, oh, I'm not good at it. I'm going to give up. Yeah. Why? Did you do that when you started walking? No, you just kept trying until you could walk. Like, everyone's so ridiculous about their, like, what they believe they should be, because we keep comparing ourselves to everyone in the world because of social media. And it's like, no, everybody started as a beginner. And then they just kept working until they got, and then everyone's like, oh, they're lucky. Yeah, they might have been working at it for 10 years to be lucky at it. So let's just stop stopping yourself before you've even started.
Right.
This is 2024 and we know everyone's in their New Year resolution right now. Hopefully you've created something really fantastic. But if you fall off the wagon, don't give up on yourself. This is the time to just like keep going and going and going. You got to have that why really clear.
Yeah. And the why is the way to discover the beingness of this whole thing. So we want to leave you some actual practical tools. You can sit in quietness and breathe and do some meditation. You can go for a walk. You can surround yourself with some great people. You can read a mind expanding book, and connecting to your why. Like, as you do your goals for 2024, come from the place of beingness and why, rather than do. Because if you're just going to be stuck in do, it might be your old identity, just like, well, I do that so I get love. I do that so I get money or status. And if that's not going to bring you fulfillment, and satisfaction and true joy. It might bring you a feeling of like, I smashed some goals, but it's so the beautiful thing is who you get to be on this journey of where we've pointed our arrows in the future, right? So we would love to meet you. And Kate and I, like I said, we were trained in this. I am a functional nutrition degree. Kate also has a strategic intervention coach trained by Tony Robbins, which gives her a really great strategy of people. And she deals with the mind, I deal with the body, and then we have a relationship pillar to this, which some of the mentors and teachers we worked with have some really powerful sort of strategies around restoring love and connection with anyone in your life, rather than being isolated and disconnected or being right.
We're always better together. Giving
up your right to be right will definitely and even though you know you're right, will allow you to have some connection rather than being right and then being alone. So those are some of the really nifty shifts inside of relationships that we do. So we really 2024 can be whatever you want it to be. You say it's going to be.
Yeah, we're not at the whim of, if there's another pandemic that they keep threatening, if there's this, like, who do you get to be in the face of all adversity? And that's what makes a person. If you're going to succumb to fear and drama every time that something goes wrong in the world, because it will, and they love sharing all the problems because fear creates control. Fearful people do whatever you ask of them. Whereas if you are empowered, if you know who you are, if you are healthy, if you know how to generate your health, generate your beliefs, question, and stand in your truth, then you are not so easily led astray. So no matter what happens in the world, you can own your sovereignty and own your power. So how do you do that? How do you get to that? And if you don't know, if that feels really overwhelming and confronting, then we are here doing a program to really have people stand in that, to know how to regain their health, to reverse age, to reverse disease, how to stand in what they're creating for their life and just go at it and take tiny steps daily until it's their reality. Yeah. It's really simple when you have a structure, and that's what we create for people. So if that sounds like something you want, if you want to fast track all your goals and dreams and have a life so powerful and profound in just 1 year, rather than like fumbling around for 5 or 10 years, then just take action. Go at it. It'll be the best thing you've ever done.
In the description of this video, there will be a link where you can just click and it'll get you into our world, and we can reach out to you, or you can book a call right there with us. So what can you do? I'm going to leave you with a question. What can you do to make sure that 2024 is different than say 23 or 22 or 20? Like, you might be overweight, you might be severely lonely or broke or depressed or anxious. Who are you going to be, and what is your why, so that you can create 2024 to be something that's actually by design, not just default, not just like reacting all the time to other people's wishes or other people's demands, or being afraid from what the news is telling you. Like, what can you do? And if you're watching this, you can let us know in the comments too. What are you gonna create in 2024? And who do you get to be to make sure that is actually something that you want? So many people are living a life that either is to make their parents happy or just to make God happy, but they're not necessarily living their life. It's a deferred life. They're living so that their kids are okay, or they're living so that their parents aren't embarrassed about them, or that someone in their church doesn't think they're too progressive or too conservative, and we have these confinements of all these shoulds, that we should do this, and it's just like, I want for you 2024 to be different. Like, what do you really want? And who do you really get to be, and why? And those are some really great places to start. And if you want a little extra help, then just get in touch with us, and we'd be overjoyed to help guide through some of these interesting woods. These are deep. Identity is deep woods, man. It is deep, deep work, and it's confronting, and you're gonna fight it. Like the old identity doesn't want to let go. Your brain.
You're gonna fight it for you're gonna fight for your pain. You're gonna fight for
your smallness.
Yeah.
You're going to fight to stay exactly how you are because it's what's known. In our brains, Kate does this work, but our brains are designed to keep you safe. They don't want change. Your brain doesn't want you to try new things and to be brave and to be adventurous. It just wants safety, security, and the same old thing over and over again. So you're actually going against your biology to have the power to change, which is cool. And it's exciting. and we know you can do it.
Yeah. So... with that, we will bid you adieu.
We'll bid you adieu.
Adieu.
And thank you for stopping by.
Yeah.
And there'll be all the links down below.
Happy New Year. Have a glorious year, whatever you're doing, and make it sumptuous and delicious and filled with, squeeze everything out. You never know how much time you have on this planet. Don't be there looking back as you're leaving your body and be like, I wish I didn't spend my last days just getting the laundry and doing this or doing this, doing all the things. I wish I stopped and danced in my kitchen, or I wish I stopped and laughed, or called my best friend, or whatever it is that you keep putting off or you keep not doing until you've done all your tasks and all the things. Do it now. Take time for joy and for juiciness and yumminess and all the good things. And we're talking about true yumminess, not things that are nasty that you think is good for you. It's not nasty stuff that is an escape from your stuff. Anyway, this is a very deep identity question in this, so I'm not gonna go any further, but just know, squeeze all the juice out of life.
That's right.
You just never know.
You never know.
So
all right, we love you. Happy 24.
Yeah.
And we have another one of these coming up, our
final one next week.
What day?
On the 10th.
On the 10th, at the same time, same channels.
Yeah.
We'll see you all then.
See you then.
All right, bye.
Bye.